And right now we are 2 minutes away from the closing bells. Romaine Bostick here alongside Matt Miller, counting you down to the closing bells. It's with the global simulcast, and it starts right now. Carol Massar joining us from the radio booth. Tim Stenovec is there for the first time, I think, in a couple of days. Welcome to our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms here on Bloomberg Television Radio, our partnership with YouTube, a broad-based rally that has taken stocks to yet another record high. Carol Massar.
Yeah, I know. All in, it feels like. What could go wrong, possibly, in this environment? I mean, it seems like investors at this point, we had a red headline cross the Bloomberg a little while ago about traders, investors pricing in a full percentage, not a full percentage point, 100% chance a rate cut come September. I would just caution again that there's a lot before we get to that Fed meeting and decision.
There's also a lot of questions about data and what data we're actually going to get between now and then. Certainly we'll hear from the Fed chair in Jackson Hole, and we'll get a better idea of what he and maybe other Fed speakers are thinking. But yeah, that meeting in September, I think it's fair to say it's a live one.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems like the market is just happy that the president is pushing down rate expectations, because we had an MLive Pulse survey that showed 59% of respondents were happy that the president was trying to talk down rates and said that the stock market was going to benefit from that. We're headed to 6,500 on the S&P and possibly 50,000 on the Dow Jones Industrial Average.
This is a pretty broad-based rally. About 85% of the stocks in the S&P 500 are in the green on this Wednesday afternoon as we get the closing bells here in New York. An S&P 500 up about 20 points or 0.3%. And yeah, that's good enough for a record high. We're going to wait for these numbers to settle just a bit, but it looks like the NASDAQ Composite and the NASDAQ 100, which are straddling the line between gains and losses, are going to finish the day in the green, also at record highs, at least for the NASDAQ 100. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up about 1% on the day, and we should point out it is less than a half a percentage point away from reclaiming its record high, a record high that goes all the way back to last year, so a bit of a laggard. And the Russell 2000 also trying to catch up. A gain today of roughly about 45 points or 2%, and that now puts it about 5% away from its record high that it last saw back in 2021.
Yeah, feels like some exuberance in this market, no doubt about it. Back to the big caps we go, and yeah, fairly broad-based in terms of the buying. Matt, you've got about 418 names to the upside in the S&P 500, 85 losing ground today.
I just want to point out that Bitcoin is also at an all-time high. As we're celebrating all-time highs, $122,840 is a Bitcoin. Here's your IMAP to see which sectors did well and which did poorly. Tech is down, and actually NVIDIA closed the day lower, but we had Apple and Amazon adding the most points to the S&P 500. You see financials did well, industrials did well, and healthcare as well, and that's why the Dow Jones outperformed the S&P 500.
All right, folks, let's get to some of the individual gainers, if we may, in today's session. Number one gainer in the S&P 500, Paramount, Skydance soaring up as much as 60% or almost 60% at its highs today, intraday, finishing with a gain of just shy of 37%. Exuberance, excitement, I don't know. You know that Paramount and Skydance, of course, completed its merger last Thursday. On Monday, it announced a 7-year agreement with TKO Group, giving Paramount exclusive media rights to UFC events in the United States. All I'm going to say is investors just continuing to push this one higher and higher and higher. Warner Brothers, also some outperformance today, up about 7.5%. Top gainer in the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100. Some insider buying. A director, Anthony Levy, reported a series of insider stock transactions to the SEC. Stock is still down about 11% since the end of July, but it is up about 15% year to date. Here's something different, ticker WBTN. We're talking about Webtoon Entertainment.
Yes. Can I just tell you, I saw this route yesterday, the big move, and I didn't know it was a public company.
It is a public company. It's also 81% higher in today's session, jumping by a record today. Stock is up the most since its IPO. It is now a roughly $2.1 billion market cap company. It's based in LA. It's a storytelling tech platform. And the news today, a Disney partnership to launch 100 comics on its platform. Yeah. And the company reported earnings. I know, right?
Big deal in my household. Yeah, I never knew it was a public company.
You're watching cartoons?
I have children.
I think the kids, and I don't mean young kids, right? I think that we had teenagers in our editorial meeting a few months ago telling us they love Webtoon. So it's a thing that they do.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be judgmental.
It's a bullish.
Was Romaine one of the teenagers?
Adults can watch cartoons too.
It's definitely I know. It's definitely a bullish thing. And speaking of bullish, I got to just bring this up. I wasn't sure that this would be a gainer. IPO today.
You weren't sure it was going to be a gainer? What were you waiting on, for it to drop from 84%
triple at the open
to flip to negative?
It kind of bounced. All right. It kind of bounced around. Be
Okay,
kind.
between
Be
100
kind.
We're looking at the
45%,
intraday chart right next to
Come on,
your
guys.
face there.
Hey,
That's
hey.
not-
The ticker
Be
is
cool. Be cool.
BLSH. It's kind of a clever ticker.
Yeah.
It is up about 89%
That's
in its
clever.
first day of trading. Can I throw one more in there?
Sure.
Don't look at me to ask.
UAMY. If you haven't checked out this ticker, it's U.S. Antimony. We had the CEO. It's not rare earth minerals, but it's all about a specific mineral that's used in bullets and defense. And we had the CEO on, and the stock is up about 5%. And I think clearly say it's as a result of our interview. So check out the interview online.
All right, I'm going to go with
I'm done.
I want to start with NVIDIA on the decliner side, down 0.9%. We did see semis and power generation stocks that were linked to the AI boom selling off today. This after CoreWeave gave a disappointing earnings outlook that reflected costs of rapid data center expansion. NVIDIA fell as much as 2.1%. It did close at a record yesterday, $183.60.
Even with the export tax.
Was that all-time high. I want to talk CoreWeave, down 21% today. The company reported a wider quarterly loss. It gave a disappointing earnings outlook. It raised concerns about its rapid AI data center expansion, putting some pressure on profit margins. The company's CEO said, quote, "We are scaling rapidly as we look to meet the unprecedented demand for AI." The company said it's spending on acquisitions and new capacity. And finally, Kava, down 16.6%. The company shares fell after it trimmed its annual sales guidance and cited slower quarterly sales growth. I saw Brett Schulman on your air. We're going to have to put that on hold, though, because we're getting some earnings.
Yeah, Cisco, remember them? They're actually out with their earnings right now. We're going to start first with the most recent quarter, the fiscal fourth quarter. Revenue did come in relatively in line with estimates at about $14.67 billion. On the EPS side, it also looks like a modest beat, 99 cents versus 98. But here's your forecast going forward. The company says for the full fiscal year, which basically started at the start of this month, adjusted EPS will be in a range of 4 to 406. The street was looking for 403. So a tight range that pretty much straddles the line of what the street was looking for. And the revenue guidance, the company says that for revenue for the full year, $59 to $60 billion. Again, tight guidance here. The street was looking for 59.49. You see the reaction there in the shares here, down about 3%. And maybe this is the idea that for a company that was supposed to finally be nudging its way into the AI ecosystem, maybe investors were looking for maybe a little bit more upside on the guidance.
The gross margin, 65.7% GAAP, non-GAAP, 68.4%. Just incredible margins. But keep in mind, this was the poster child for overspending to build out infrastructure during the dot-com bubble, right? And we're looking at other companies showing signs of that today, like CoreWeave, right? So it's interesting to see Cisco come out and post this kind of growth, this kind of gross margins. You wonder if they can keep it going on. The CEO saying that it was a strong close to the fiscal year, at the end of the fiscal year here, driven by accelerated innovation and solid execution. AI infrastructure orders signal a massive opportunity ahead, according to Robbins.
And they do say in the release that their AI infrastructure from web scale clients, so basically those hyperscalers, that was over 800 million. Should also point out, you're mentioning the CEO's comments in the press statement. Chuck Robbins, he is scheduled to be on Bloomberg Television tomorrow during Bloomberg Tech.
All right, looking forward to that. I mean, the stock has definitely been moving up this year on expectations that it would definitely be able to play into the AI impact that we've seen on so many different companies. Chuck Robbins, though, also moving into the services area, and service revenue, $3.79 billion versus $3.78 billion year over year. The estimate was $386, so a little shy of what the street was expecting. Again, they've been trying to kind of, I don't know, modernize their model, move into other areas. And so maybe it's just not a straight move forward for this company, because you definitely see some disappointment by investors, down about 3% here in the aftermarket. Again, though, it's been moving up this year to date.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say a lot of questions on that. We're going to dive deeper into those fiscal earnings on the television side. And I just want to point out, ticker COHR, Coherent, which also operates in this space. Those shares down 14% right now. Apparently some disappointment in its guidance as well.
Yeah, Woo Jin Ho is going to be joining us in just a few minutes, too, from the Bloomberg Intelligence team. We're going to be diving deeper into these Cisco earnings. Worth noting, once again, the AI infrastructure orders that the company got from web scale customers in fiscal 2025, that was more than double Cisco's original target. Still, investors not so happy with the results.
Yeah, right through right now by Dina Bass and Brody Ford. Cisco giving a lukewarm outlook with investors craving that AI boost. So some writing through on that earnings release.